Right. I was just looking first of all, I just first of all got my calendar up because I was just going to say my aim is to probably do these Zoom sessions fortnightly, which might feel a bit of a rush for you for reading, but as I said before, even if you only read the bit targeted towards whatever question I've allocated you, then at least it's a little bit. And the people that are serious about thinking about doing the exam, then there'll be opportunities to catch up with it a bit later on. So I guess the 2nd of December probably would be the next one. And then I was thinking this 16th, and then the following week's Christmas. So then we'd stop until into the new year. And I think we're thinking of starting maybe something like the 13th of January. So rather than rushing back on the 6th or whatever. So that's just my thoughts at the moment. But
could you run through those again?
Well,
was it 2nd of December, 16th of December, and 13th of Jan? Was that it?
Sarah, can you unmute and have your video on?
Sorry, who?
Sarah's here, but she's muted and she's not got a video on. Can you hear me, Sarah? You need to unmute and have your video on.
She's probably tucking into a nice tea.
Yeah, that's true if she is. And so
are those the right dates, Jacqueline?
Yes, but I mean I'll notify you each time. So it's sort of
okay.
2 weekly from now. And then we'll decide what break is a good amount of break over Christmas really before we restart. So that's
we start the theory course early in January.
Yes, yeah.
Because don't forget we've got the theory starting that around then as well.
I hear an echo.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, just in my mind.
Right. So, and as I think when there was just Val and Pauline on at the beginning, and Pauline was just reiterating to Val about how my hope is that we're going to get people just reading a bit towards their question at least, and then
yes.
there'll be a lot more participation than there has been from let's say the previous study groups I've run. Well, I think I've done an awful lot of talking, so we'll see how it goes.
Hello, Sarah.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I'm having real problems having to go through the web instead of the app, and I don't know about it, but
you're here now. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. Might be.
I have to go through the browser every time.
Oh, do you? Well,
right. So anyway, if we get started and see where we've got to this week, I've done. The other thing is I've jumbled the syllabus up, as I said before, so that things that seem to fit together are grouped, with similar items rather than the way they've sort of spread it. Some things are sort of almost come in separate parts of the syllabus. And then also, starting with this one this week, I hope that it was a little bit easier going, sort of learning or reading a bit about nectar and processing nectar into honey, things like that, and flowers, rather than jumping straight into the start of the syllabus, which is the Honey England Regulations 2015, which I thought everybody might not find good bedtime reading.
Definitely not.
You mean we don't know them?
So we'll come to that at some point. Right, I'll just screen share if I can and find my file that we're into. Actually, what I was going to do briefly first, just as a little, well, not exactly a bit of fun, but just a bit different. I've got another file, which is all of the short answer questions. So I thought we could just do maybe the first 10 of those, which is from one paper, I don't know which one, and see which ones. You won't necessarily know the answers to all of them at this stage, But if there's any that we do know the answers to, then we could fill those in, and it just shows you the kind of things that you get in those short answer ones.
Jacqueline, before you do that, could I just, so is the exam made up of 3 parts, short questions and long questions?
Yes.
Right.
See if that, oh, can't get that thing off. Yes, it's the actual exam, and if you go on to BBKA, and look for the exams, I can find you a link or something probably.
Yeah.
Okay, it gives you, there are some examples of exams. I think module 2 might be one of the ones that it does give you some example questions, but they're all the same sort of format. You've got 10 short answer questions, which are 1 mark each. Section B is you've got 5 questions and you have to do 4 of them, and they're 15 marks, but they are usually broken down into smaller pieces. So I always find that if there are some subjects where they've broken it down a lot, so you've maybe got to give 5 points about something and 4 points about something else, rather than ones that are 10 and 5. If they break it down, then those are a bit easier to do sometimes, because you can often think of a couple of points on the subject, but not necessarily think of 10 or 15 points for an answer. And each then section C is a choice from 1 of 2 questions that they give you, and that's 30 marks. So it's basically a mark a minute throughout the exam, because it's 100 minutes, is it? Yeah.
90, isn't it?
Is it 90? Is it 90?
I think it's 90, an hour and a half.
Yeah, yes, think so. But I don't know, somehow
No,
sure
right,
it's
it's
not-
Feels shorter than that, does it, Julie?
It's 100 minutes,
yeah, 100 minutes it is.
but it feels, you're right, a
I
lot
think they
shorter than that.
extended it once they did it online. That's what it was. It used to be 90 minutes. So I presume the people that do still do it as a written exam, which you can if you prefer, but there's less places to do it. People that still do it as written, then maybe they're benefiting slightly by having an extra 10 minutes. But yeah, so that's what the format is. Yeah, so they've moved it. Most people do it online now, and they send you a link. There's a certain software that you have to install on your computer. They send you login information, and once the closing date for doing the exam or applying to take the exam has passed, then they email the link to a practice paper, so that you can go on and actually practice doing it for real. And as long as you don't submit that practice paper, you can keep going in and out of it as many times as you want to, until they close it a few days before the exam. And then a few days before the exam, they send you out login details for the actual exam.
Oh,
And they're very good there, aren't they, Julie? They helped you with setting up your computer and things.
Very much so.
If you've got problems.
Is there set dates, Jacqueline, when the exam is on? Or is
Yes,
that?
they do. Yeah, it's twice a year. So again, in the BBKA exams pages, it'll have the dates for the next exams, and then also somewhere there it'll have the closing dates. So the closing dates are usually a few weeks before the exam.
It'll be either in March or November, won't it?
Yeah, it's March and November. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the third Saturday in March is the next one.
Okay. So yeah, so you'll probably have to apply for it. I think it's by the end of February or something like that. Or yeah, there'll be a closing date anyway. So yeah, so you've got a while to decide whether you want to do it or not. And if you don't want to do it now, then you might decide that you want to just carry on reading a bit more over the summer and think about doing it in November. It's up to you, or not at all. Right, let me find my Right, so this is some section A questions. Now, unless you've done extra reading, you might not have come across some of these things. Does anybody know what the average pH of blossom honey is? We'll leave the ones that we haven't really covered, and then we'll come back to it again when we have covered those topics. No, right? Metheglin. Do you know what metheglin is?
No.
It's a drink, isn't it? It's the
It's the same
No,
as
it's one
mead.
of those. It's one of those mead variations.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think it's a spiced mead, but
I think it's a spice mead as well.
Is there any chance you can make it a bit bigger, Jacqueline?
um,
I'm on my phone. Thank you.
is
Thanks,
that
babe.
bigger? Yeah.
Yep, that's better. Am I shouting, by the way?
No.
No, it's fine. I think. Let me just get rid of some of those. Right. One criterion which makes floral honey become baker's honey.
Moisture content, water content.
Yep.
Obviously, these questions change when the exam's on.
Sadly,
These
I
are
bet they,
questions from previous exams.
That's a shame.
Oh yeah, but you'll find as we go through, you'll see that they repeat things.
Can you
Um,
elaborate on the fact that water content is higher or different? We're going to do that another
but
time.
it's not in the topics that we're doing at the moment, so I won't.
All right.
Okay, because otherwise we need to get on to the other questions.
Fair
I
enough.
just thought it maybe this week is a bit too early to do these questions,
No,
but I
this is
thought
interesting.
it just shows you.
Yeah.
Right, do you know what's meant by hygroscopic?
Isn't it attracts water, takes in water,
Absorbs water.
absorbs water, that's the word.
Yeah. Melting point of beeswax.
Is it about 65?
2, I was going to say, but
Yeah, I think it's. I
63?
can't remember exactly. It's 62 to 64, I think, or something. It's somewhere in that region.
Mm.
So when we come to wax, we can
We
change it
get
a little
right.
bit. I think it might be 64, but anyway. How does a white clover floret show that it's been pollinated?
it
Anybody know
drops
that
down.
one?
It
Yep.
changes colour and it drops down.
Right. Do you know the word that for the study of pollen grains in a sample of honey?
Something like
Mesobiology.
Yeah. Yeah, that one.
Melissa.
Uh,
Panoply.
Melissopalinology. It might have 2 L's.
I think it does have 2 L's.
I think it does. Some of these things. There we go. I don't think it'll fit in that space. Right, this one we should be able to answer better. One of the main constituents of floral nectar.
Sucrose.
Sucrose. If you said glucose, would that be right as well?
I think glucose would probably be better because although sucrose is listed,
I mean, it
it's a
should be either
smaller percentage, isn't
fructose
it?
or glucose, surely.
Yes.
It depends on which floral nectar you're talking about as to how much they contain.
So yeah, so glucose, fructose, water. Those probably would be the main things.
If you put water, Jacqueline, because that obviously is that must be a main constituent, would you still get 1 point?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it's going to be 80% water, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
So water's, yeah.
yes.
I thought
right.
sucrose. The reason I said sucrose was because I thought it was inverted to glucose and fructose.
It is. It's used. They use invertase, don't
But
they?
there's also lots of glucose, is there?
But in
floral, they have more glucose, don't they? A higher percentage of glucose than sucrose?
Sucrose is the main sugar content, and the sucrose is split by an enzyme, invertase, which splits it into fructose and glucose. I
But
think
that's what the bee does. Yeah, but that's what the
yeah,
bee
that's
does.
also what the bee does, which was
Yeah.
quite interesting. It makes you wonder why they bother twice, but there you are.
Mm.
Okay, in Celia Davis, it's got nectar is water containing a number of 30 to 90%, containing a number of dissolved substances, including sugars, vitamins, minerals, organic acids, nitrogenous compounds, blah, blah, blah. And it says the sugars which are of primary importance are sucrose, fructose, and glucose. So, I mean, most nectars still aren't going to have very much sucrose in them, although they'll have more than there is in honey, because as you say, the bees break it down. But yeah, so any of those really are fine. Right, do you know who devised the seeding method to produce finely crystallized honey?
I can't remember.
Okay, we'll leave that, we'll come to it. Where was the
Jonathan
first?
Brookhouse, actually.
Yeah.
Where was the first National Honey Show held? No, we haven't come to the honey show section yet, so we'll leave.
19. No,
Where?
Where?
18. Oh, we should know because there wasn't it 150 last year.
Yeah, where though was the
Oh,
question.
where?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
I have a feeling it might have been Crystal Palace or somewhere
Something
like
like
that.
that. Yeah, I think you're right.
But anyway, right, so that's 10 short questions, which are more difficult today because we haven't read around all of those bits, but it just shows you some of the things. Now, let me get to my other one. Okay, so now this is the, let me make everybody smaller, that's better for me. Right, so this is now onto the syllabus with the questions that I've given you. So I won't read the bits that we're covering again, just because hopefully you've seen that, read it and everything. So the March 2024 paper, so question 12, so that will be a section B question, which would have been 15 marks. It's must have been question A, whatever it was about, would have been 5 marks, and
Are we
then
supposed to be looking at this on screen?
oh, is it not there?
No.
No.
We still got the 10 questions.
Oh, okay. Hang on. I'll stop there and I'll just redo it. I just switched between the files, but it obviously didn't work.
Is anybody else having problems? I keep losing contact with you.
No.
No, it's fine. I've got lots of other problems, but not that one.
Well, if I go blank, it just keeps saying disconnecting, reconnecting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right,
No,
okay.
it must be your internet.
yeah, say a broadband problem. Yeah.
I think it might be my computer.
Right.
Yeah, we got it now, Jacqueline.
Okay, good.
And I've got nothing on my screen.
Yeah, it must be your broadband.
Well, no, I've got the people, but I've got nothing from Jacqueline's screen.
Oh, okay. I've got
Well,
it.
everyone else has, have they?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah. It's the sheet that she sent us about what we have to do.
The questions.
Oh, okay, well, I've got that in front of me, actually,
Yeah.
so I might
Okay.
just be
You'll be
able
okay then.
to
Okay.
muddle my way through.
Right. So what I'll do is I will type in the answers as we go through them, and then I'll send this out to everybody afterwards. And
Okay,
so
that's great.
then you've got all the information that we've talked about. So you don't have to make notes yourself now.
Oh, that's helpful.
You'll also
So-
get a recording of this.
Yeah.
Tomorrow as well.
Okay, so Pauline, we're with you. Although anybody else can chip in.
Well, yeah. Well, I did do some readings. on this subject. And I've had great difficulty getting 10 points, so you can put me straight there. I started off by saying that nectar is 20 to 70% water and sugars, mainly sucrose, glucose, and fructose. I don't know if that's relevant or not. Is it, when you're answering this question?
Let's see.
Is that a point or not?
Not asking for its composition, is it? It's just
No.
asking the steps to convert it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, anyway,
You could, I mean, you could say that it's that much water which has to be reduced by the bee. So then that is a step, but possibly
it's just
I would
superfluous
maybe
at that stage.
that for a minute.
Yeah, it's all about technique, isn't it, really?
Yes.
I said that there needs to be two changes. One, a reduction in the water content, and the second one is the chemical changes by enzymes which are introduced by the bees. And the process starts as soon as the bee takes in the nectar, and invertase, I think Celia, what's her name, called it sucrase. Is that right? Invertase,
Yes.
sucrase. It acts on the sucrose, which is disaccharide, and changes it into two monosaccharides, glucose and fructose.
Okay, I think you're getting too complicated.
Okay.
Well, initially, I think if you literally, I mean, that some of that could come in later, but initially, if you just start thinking of the process that the bee goes through.
Okay.
So the actually, I would say, rather than if we don't.
So the process starts when the bee takes in the nectar, goes into the crop, and invertase starts to act on the nectar as soon as it's taken in. Takes it back to the hive, and the returning bee will regurgitate it to a house bee, and the enzymes continue to act. That the house bee has enzymes that continue to act and reduce this process. Well, is that right? Is that too complicated?
Need to try to think of ways to say things without too many words, because then it becomes easier. So
the returning bee regurgitates the nectar to a house bee. That would be 1 point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the house bee produces enzymes and continues to invert the sugar. Is that another point?
Well, I would just say, with the first bee, the collecting bee, so it's collected the nectar from the flower.
Using its proboscis, maybe? Use it, get that in.
Yes. It what's the phrase? I can't think what it is. It passes it up and down its proboscis. Oops, too many.
But I was going to talk about that later. So the first thing is the chemical thing, and the water thing is a separate thing. So I've mentioned that, but you've just.
They've asked for the steps. Oh, it's the. Wait, hang on. Let's read it again. Conversion of nectar to honey in the colony.
Because I'm not sorry to jump in here, but you've given me the question that says how the working honeybee processes nectar to change it into honey. So I would think that was the singular honey, whereas this question looks like it's more based on the colony.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, they're similar. They're similar, but this one's got to have the talk about the house bees more, and
yes, So the house bee takes in the honey, and when it's inside its body, the chemical reaction continues, but then it also has to reduce the water content to 18%. And it does that by rolling it on its proboscis, and the temperature of the hive causes evaporation. And it can do that over and over. And it can also do that by passing it to another bee, which will do the same thing. And when it gets to 18% or thereabouts, it will then store it in a comb. Is that right?
Yes, although I haven't got all of that in my head. So,
Maybe mention fanning.
Feels like you're doing a lot of the work, Jacqueline, with your typing up as well.
temperature of
What
hive.
did you say,
Yes,
Julie,
and
about
fanning.
that?
About maybe mention the fact that the bees fan the honey to reduce the concentration of
Yeah.
Yeah.
increase the concentration of
Mm.
sugars.
Right. Water.
That's 6.
Must be reduced to less than 20%. Ideally, is that little wiggle around 18%. Oops. Right.
I mean, I would have thought you'd have to say right at the beginning that there's 2 processes that convert it. One is reduction of water, and one is the chemical process. Because
Yeah, you say you haven't mentioned the hyperinchial glands, which generates the enzyme, which starts the process of
and the house bee is about 2 weeks old or something. They produce these invertase.
But they reckon it's the initial generation of the enzyme is done by the foragers on the way back.
Yeah.
And then to the house bees.
Yeah, I think that's quite important that it starts straight away.
Yes.
Well, I've put it here. So the nectar's been. Okay, maybe we don't need to say it's taken back to the hive in its crop.
Well, I think it could, because people might, they might think that they just hold it in its mouth or something.
Maybe it just
It has to go
literally
into its crop.
be the conversion. Well, I mean, because you can put leading statements just to sort of put things in perspective. So that's just saying that the nectar's collected, taken back to the hive in the crop. So then it's regurgitated, passed to house bee. Enzymes are introduced by
the enzymes aren't introduced as it rolls up and down the proboscis. That's a water reduced.
Well, yeah, that's to remove moisture, but as they're rolling it up and down, it's going past their salivary glands.
Okay.
So it can be passed between several bees down at the bottom.
So, Jacqueline, is the enzyme? I thought the enzyme was produced in the second stomach, but what you're saying is it's also produced in salivary glands.
No, it's produced by the hypopharyngeal
glands.
So yeah, that's for the processing it into honey. It's all the hypopharyngeal glands that.
Do we have to know about the thoracic salivary glands?
At some point, but I don't think in this one.
Okay.
come in, probably that sort of thing comes more into the module 5, I think, really.
Oh, right.
Isn't it great? No, let's see. Forgot.
So it's the older bees that produce the invertase in the hypopharyngeal glands.
2 weeks old.
While they're transporting it back from having been foraging.
They say that both of them do. There's obviously there must be older bees to be foragers in the first place, but house bees also do it, but they don't have a date for how old the house bees are. But we know they're going to be under 3 weeks.
Yeah,
they
have to be usually over 2 weeks, so that their glands have developed enough to be producing the enzymes. So produced by hypopharyngeal glands, glucose oxidase and sucrase. Sorry, could be.
So is it invertase in both cases, the older bees and the younger bees? So is it invertase that's been produced, or is it one or the other?
Invertase is the enzyme that does the breaking down.
That's the one that's introduced when they're 2 weeks old from the hypopharyngeal glands.
Yes.
So if they've not developed, they can't do it.
There's glucose oxidase and amylase, isn't there? Do we need to worry about that? Because it does change.
Yeah, glucose oxidase helps to produce so sucrose
hydrogen peroxide
breaks down sucrose.
It produces glycolic acid and hydrogen peroxide.
No, I'm on sucrase at the moment.
Sorry.
Sucrase breaks down sucrose to glucose and fructose.
Glucose and fructose.
Fructose.
That's what invertase did.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Sucrase and invertase are the same.
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't got any books with me. I only had access to the internet, I'm afraid. So if I've missed stuff that was in Celia Davis, that's why.
So I think I usually call it sucrase, because then you remember that it breaks down sucrose. Whereas if you say invertase,
yes, I agree.
That doesn't tell you anything.
That's a good tip. There's also another enzyme called glucose oxidase. That's the one that breaks it down to glucolic acid and hydrogen peroxide, which is quite important, isn't it?
Is it glucolic or glycolic?
Glucolic.
Glucolic. I think it's conic as opposed to colic.
Oh, yes.
Conic, yes. Imagine a cone.
Conic, is it?
A cone.
Is it?
Conic. A cone stuck together with glue. Glue conic.
Okay,
how many is that?
Well, count the first couple of lines as one, really. I'll put that back up.
That's 10.
That up to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think it was
9.
8, 9.
The thing I was reading also if we're looking for another, Mark, talked about diatase being a catalyst for the breakdown of starch and maltose and being produced in the hypopharyngeal glands.
Yeah, but you're not going to get much starch and maltose in most normal.
I didn't think so, really.
It's a minor feature. So the other thing is, what would we call it? The final honey product, really.
When it goes into the cells, it's found for more water content to come off, isn't it? before, and then it's sealed over with.
It's sealed, yes. It'd be easy to forget that, wouldn't it? And that's quite an important part.
Yeah.
Sealing it.
Remember it when you extract it, don't you?
That's 10.
Yeah.
Would it be worth mentioning hydrolysis? Creating a supersaturated solution?
No.
No, fine.
No, I mean, I think that's fine. Because hydrolysis is the breaking down of sucrose, isn't it? So it's adding water. Or no, is it removing water? Anyway, but I think that's, you don't have to go into too many fancy words. If you can put it in just simple English, but still be explaining it, then that's fine. So, yeah, so I think that's pretty, that will do for that. All right, Rebecca's not here. So, did anybody else read up about a honey not produced directly by a plant?
I'm assuming you're talking about you.
Honey.
It's got to do with my question, Jackie. Yeah.
Aphids.
Oh, is yours? Where's yours?
Mine's production of honeydew.
Yours is, okay, right, yeah. So yours has only got 3.
That was only 1 point, that first question.
Yeah. So we've got the components and the distinguishing. Oh, we've got more honeydew here.
Yeah, but that's I've also got all the characteristics of honeydew, honey. Do you want me to talk about that? Is that the same?
Yeah, yours has only got 3 marks here, but yeah, let's do yours because a lot of it will overlap. So,
so the characteristics.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where I found it difficult because I looked and thought there was only 3 points, but there's quite a lot to say. So I wasn't sure what was important and what wasn't. But basically, the characteristics can vary depending on the geographical place, what the conditions are, the climate's conditions, and the plant species and sucking the insects that are involved. But basically, the colour is usually much, much darker than floral honey. And in fact, on the meeting on Wednesday, that black tar that I tasted will never let me ever forget that.
No, I love it. I think it's smashing. I really do like it. Yeah, seriously.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I tried one time that Malcolm had, and it was honeydew, and I thought it was really lovely. Yeah.
Oh gosh, obviously, I think it was a bit of a shock. Anyway, so it's much darker, usually light to dark brown, but could be black. And in fact, the one on Wednesday, I would say, was nearer black, and reddish, but could have a red or green tinge. So the colour is basically the overall thing is it's much darker, can vary from light to dark brown through to black.
So usually dark covers it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Keep it short.
Depending on the bug.
Okay, right. So the smell, the odour is there's a medium intensity smell. It's a specific sort of smell, but it's much stronger. I would say much stronger. The taste, it's very distinctive, strong taste. And I would say on Wednesday it was like malt, or maybe like kind of what I looked here is treacly, figgy, toffee, or nutty. I would say it was definitely more like malt. And afterwards, after I finished, it was quite bitter. So I'd say a strong taste. I would say varying towards sort of malty treacle with a bitter aftertaste. Does anybody else picked up anything else?
Well, in the flavours or
the flavours. I mean, I've got lots more. This is why I didn't know when to stop at 3 because there's only 3 marks.
So stop at 3.
Okay, so viscosity, it's much higher, so it's much stickier, and it's more acidic than floral acid, than floral honey. It's much. It says here, well, we've got 3, haven't we? But it's much stringier, It's not as easy for bees to forage. That's not really one of the characteristics. It may have toxic substances in, and it says here. So here we are, Mel. Here's your bit. Consumer accessibility.
Yeah.
Held in high regard in some countries, e.g., Germany, New Zealand, and not appreciated in others. In other words, USA.
Well, you see, it just goes to show I'm Canadian, and I thought it was lovely. So, but in this lot, you have got to say that it's a dextro-rotator. I mean, come on, what a fabulous word is that? It's a dextro-rotator. When it it refracts light round to the right, whereas most refract light to the left.
Oh gosh, what I didn't have that. Is that because of the metals in it? Because there was a higher concentration of heavy metals due to pollution. So that's much more than 3 marks, though.
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing is, that's I mean, that's fine. I know I haven't got the some of the data here. I can't really think where I've got it from, but there is stuff about the acid. It is
It's often more acid.
I've got that here as well. Acidity. Yes, it says that here. But that's when I said, when do you stop? Do you only need 3 out of these? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've got about 15 characteristics, but you've only got 3 marks.
I wouldn't say a lot of those count as characteristics.
Right.
So I think it is literally things like the taste, the smell, the colour, that it is more acidic. I can't remember now what its pH is. The water content, but yeah, stuff like that. You can have different levels of some of the characteristic or some of the components, but I think yes, just literally things like smell, taste, and colour are probably the simplest way of answering it.
Okay.
I'll see if I find more wherever I've got the notes or whatever it is, wherever I've read about the other components. It's like with the honey regulations, it'll probably be more of it in there. That's where they overlap a little bit. It'll have things like the something or other content can be higher for honeydew honey, like it can, things can be different for heather honey or stuff like that. So, but I think those ones that I've put down now are just quite simple. So if we go, we'll just work backwards. So then we come to the composition of honeydew.
So it comprises again mainly of water, but 90% of its dry matter is the wide range of sugars. So again, fructose and sucrose, including the complex ones, as well as 0.2% to 1.8% of nitrogenous substances, organic acids and citric acid, vitamin B, thiamine, potassium, enzymes, and usually mold, which I thought was particularly pleasant.
Yeah.
Called soot mold. This mold comes from exposures on the plant. So again, there's 7 marks for that. So we need to get quite a lot of that in, don't we?
Yes. So I've got mainly water. The dry matter is mostly sugars.
Yeah.
So then
small percentage of nitrogenous substances.
I would say large range of sugars.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How come it's mainly water? I mean, compared to honey, that's 80%, that's only 20% or 18% water.
Because isn't it regurgitated by the acids?
It's the plant sap. So
Okay, but by the time it's turned into the thing that you put in a honey pot and call honeydew honey, that's
Yeah, that's honeydew honey. This is
has that
honeydew.
been
Honeydew.
has that been
Honeydew
found
itself.
and things?
This is before the bees regurgitate it and process it.
This is I see.
So this is the
Okay.
honeydew they collect and take back to the hive and do exactly the same process as before. So this
Okay.
is the nectar, except
Right.
it's honeydew.
Right. Okay.
You've just answered my first question then. Thanks, Pauline.
Right, okay, so we've got mainly water, dry metals, mostly sugars. And there's a large range of sugars, including complex ones.
Yeah.
If you remember it, you can put e.g. mil is it O's. Okay.
Gracious.
And some, you know, if there's slightly more complicated words or things that you do remember, then you can throw them in there and it might tip you out. You know, if you were close to a grade boundary, then it might tip you up a bit. So, yeah, because I mean, that is just one sugar that they do mention a lot. Right, so what was it? Composition of honeydew. Right, so we've got nitrogenous
Substances, and then organic acids, such as citric acid. Vitamin B, thiamine.
Did I read somewhere ash? Is that what the dry
Ash
matter is?
Ash content, yeah.
The ash content is when you heat it up and dry it. So that's
It's another test, isn't it, to find out
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. So it's like a test of it. So
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, rather than ash, then we've got mold spores.
Yeah.
Yummy.
How many we
And a
got
mold. You've
One,
forgotten
two,
the mold.
then? Three.
And
Mold
it's got a high
spores.
level, a high pH level. Oh, you said that, didn't we, in the other question?
Yeah, but that's not in the composition. So the composition is what's it made of.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So it's where sometimes the words are a bit critical. It's like with that first one where I wasn't really thinking straight initially, and yeah, and it is. Sometimes you have to just read the question a couple of times and sort of think, like, what is, you know,
What is it
pick out
asking?
the real keywords. So yeah, so we've got 7 things there.
Okay.
So I mean, you could also say, yeah, I mean, just so that if you're reading this for any revision or something, you can say enzymes, especially from insect saliva. And anything else? No, that's it really.
Yeah.
Okay, so molds and spores, but yeah, it's I would have said it was mold spores, but anyway, I see in Celio it does say sort of specifically molds and spores, because if you were looking at it microscopically, then that's one of the things you would see, spores from the molds. So anyway, that's fine. And actually, I mean, it doesn't say here, maybe they don't really count it as, but another feature of it is that it often contains wind pollinated pollen, or pollen from wind pollinated plants, because obviously they just stick to it as they go by, whereas normal honey wouldn't, floral honey wouldn't contain that. Okay, so we've done that. So short notes on the production of honeydew.
Okay, so again, it's the aphids have mouth parts with a set of needles for piercing the plants. They basically have tubes that they transport this liquid with once they've gathered it. They pierce the phlegm and feeds with they inject saliva into it and via a duct, which starts the digestion, and then they use a second duct to extract the sap. To get enough protein, they consume a lot of this sap, but don't use all the sugars that they take. The excess sugars and the water is excreted as honeydew. So I'm just trying to think here. The aphid flicks the honeydew away, and it sticks to leaves and parts of the plants where other insects, including ants and bees, collect it. So we don't need that last bit, the others, because that's not actually the production. So it's sucking in, not just aphids, is it?
No.
So really, it's there's a sap sucking insect. It's a byproduct, a waste product from their feeding process. Which sounds revolting.
And is that why it's got nitrogenous substances in it? Have they sort of excreted that into it?
Yeah, it passes straight through them. Yes. There is. I saw a picture somewhere. I can't remember. I think it was in that brown honey BBKA special edition book. I think it was in that one. It had a picture of how it works. So as it passes through the insect, then it's got some very effective tubules that sort of remove all the things it wants from it, and then it carries on passing through and comes out the other end. Right, that will sliver into wound. I don't know. I don't know if you need to say all of that, actually, because
it's only 5 marks, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're not particularly interested about the fact how the insect actually processes it itself. So I'll just leave that part for a minute and just see how many marks we come up with. So it's the pressure of the phloem. Pushes that through the aphid. So perfect excreted fluid backed away. So what we got? So we probably should put something.
You can't really. Well, yeah.
I must say, I've often seen ants sort of feeding on this, but I've never ever seen a bee. You know, when you've got a big aphid covering your beans or something.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of ants going and harvesting it all, but I've never seen bees on it.
No, I suppose up in the trees they must be, if it's, you know, if it's a really good source in particular areas, and also I suppose if there's nothing else around.
Jacqueline, I read somewhere that they do it when there's a real dearth of other nectar and it's first thing in the mornings, which makes sense.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Collected later on.
That's when I'm probably never seen it, because I have not been there looking at that time of day.
Who produced the honeydew honey, by the way?
What, at the AGM?
Yeah.
I don't know who bought that.
Peter Smith bought it.
Oh,
Peter
did he?
Smith.
Oh,
He takes it to his talks.
Where does he buy it, or does he actually produce it?
No, he bought it. It was
Ah,
called forest honey. Because he
Oh.
said to me, do you know what forest honey is? And I didn't know what he meant for a while. And then I realised it was honeydew honey he was talking about.
So do we know anybody that produces it? Because I've never heard anybody talk about it.
I read somewhere that all our, particularly darker honeys, are likely to have some of it in there.
Right. Because there were some really dark honeys in the show, weren't there? But I didn't actually didn't have the bravery to ask why they're so dark.
They're
They
like to be,
a lot
they're
of
like to be,
chestnut.
yeah,
Chestnut
honeydew or
honey.
chestnut.
Mm.
Kathleen, is there meant to be are we meant to know a test or anything to say whether or not there's a bit of honeydew in our honey?
If there's a bit in there, then you're probably not really very likely to know. But
Yeah.
the talking about the origins of honey or the constitution of your honey, then that will come on later when we get to pollen.
Okay.
So yeah, so that will be covered later. Okay, so that's that one. What did yeah, I mean, I think that's covered all of those things. So
the only thing I didn't cover, Jacqueline, was according to the honey regulations. I didn't look that bit up. What are the 2 parameters specific to this type of honey? I didn't look at that because that wasn't part of my question. That was Rebecca's.
oh right, yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that.
So no, and then in that's what I was saying. I mean, I've got some of the honey regulations in front of me, but I don't think it's the right bit. I think there's another section. But yeah, so there are certain things like the pH of it and the water content and stuff like that can vary. So I'll have to come back to that later on. In Mark has got some of the same things in it. Actually, in Rebecca's, that one where it's got E's, list the components and the distinguishing features. So that would be a combination of your 2 parts of yours, the B and C. So
Yeah.
characteristics and the composition all together. So that's just features.
Right.
In Mark's one, we've got how does it differ from blossom honey visually and microscopically and then chemically. So we can come back to that later. The chemically will be the bits in, like we said, the pH and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we'll come back to it. We could maybe add in this one. Do you know 4 plants on which honeydew is commonly found?
Native limes, oaks, beech, fir, spruce, so many more.
It's poplars are quite a lot, I think, well, aren't they? What did you say? Beech.
Yeah, beech,
Yeah.
oak.
I mean, pretty much you could name any trees, can't you? Acers, all sorts of
Yeah.
things.
Say oak's the obvious one for England.
Oh yeah, oak. Yeah, we've got way more than 4, so yeah, very fine. So yeah, that's covered honeydew. Now we could go. Do we want to go back to? Oh, Darling Hill. Oh, past it. Energy. The work. How do we want to do that one next, and then we'll come to Mel. We've got sort of half an hour, because then that will be the last question. So, how worker bees collect and process nectar into honey. So we have covered some of it.
Yeah, I was going to say mine's very similar to Pauline's, but I just go through. I've sort of written some notes here. I put the worker bee flies up to 5 k's and 3 miles to find nectar source. So I suppose that just says how it's going out and collecting it. And they can carry up to their own body weight in pollen and nectar. They suck the nectar up using their proboscis, which is an average of 6.5 mils. They collect the nectar in a sac in their abdomen, called a crop or honey stomach. So very similar to all the things. I should have just taken your notes, Pauline. Sorry, I'm going too quick.
All right. Yes. Oops. The crop. Yeah. What else did you say?
And then I said that the nectar then starts to get processed with the two enzymes,
Yeah.
invertase and glucose oxidase,
Yeah.
which are generated by the hypophoreal glands. Is that right?
Pharyngeal, hyperpharyngeal,
Hypopharyngeal gland.
pharyngeal.
And that's also only, as we've already said, in older bees.
Yeah.
And then the invertase enzymes is added by the bees, which collects the nectar. So the foraging bee in their crop as it travels back to the hive.
Yeah, I won't bother putting all that.
Okay.
We just got, we've only got 10 points in this one, so
Only, I
actually-
know, it's hard to find the 10 points. I thought, well, not hard, but
No.
actually, this.
But then we've got the other bits as above, so that's why I've just put the enzymes as a brief thing. And then
Similar to what Pauline said, the splits the molecules of sucrose into smaller molecules, glucose and fructose. And then more invertase enzymes is added by the house bees. And that makes the nectar less prone to crystallization.
fructose, and glucose. The key things, I mean, it doesn't make it less prone to crystallization. That's dependent on the source of the nectar to start with, as to whether it's a higher glucose nectar or a higher fructose nectar. So the bit of sucrose that's in there that's being converted isn't going to
It won't dictate if
isn't
it's
going to
granulated or not.
yeah.
Then the glucose oxidase enzymes acts on the glucose, breaking it down to give gluconic acid and hydrogen peroxide.
Okay, yeah.
Same as
I mean, that's quite that one's quite important, because it's the gluconic acid and the hydrogen peroxide are what cause the gluconic acid creates the acidity in the honey, and then hydrogen peroxide helps with the antimicrobial activity. So that's all, those are major parts of making it into honey, really, that can be stored.
Yeah, I got that bit. The hydrogen peroxide is important as it destroys the bacteria.
Okay, yeah.
The worker bees.
In this kind of answer, though, you got to try to just stick to the points that they've asked you, so you don't need to give an explanation.
Okay.
So you wouldn't need to say anything about why it's converting it to that. You just say it converts it.
For some extra points.
Yes. Okay.
And then the worker bees pass it on to the house bees, using added enzymes and reducing water content by fanning droplets in proboscis and the nectar stored in the wax combs. And then when water content is between 17 and 18%, the house bees will cap with wax. This is referred then to as honey.
They call it ripe, don't they, when it's like that?
Yeah, it's good. Okay, is that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Well, that's about 9. What else could we add in? I mean, I've just kept that a bit short because we covered it
Yes.
up above, so you could add in 1 or 2 more steps. What did I not put?
Jacqueline, could I just say, is anyone else experiencing? I can hardly hear you now. I've got terrible distortion on my computer. Is it my computer, or is everyone else struggling to hear what Jacqueline's saying?
No, I'm fine.
No, it's fine. It must be your internet is a bit.
Yeah, I think it
We-
is.
It's not your computer, it's your internet.
It's my internet, is it, Pauline? I'm really struggling big time. I live out in the bloody sticks here. So
Don't worry, it's the same in Bramley, darling.
oh, that's what it is. Oh, Pauline, it's really making it difficult for me to understand what's going on. But anyway, I'll stick with,
Hopefully, you'll be able to listen to it on the recording.
yes, I think that's a good thing for me to do, actually. Okay, thanks.
Right, okay. Well, we've got 9 things there, so I mean, yeah, you can in terms of the exams, if you've got 9, then that's good. But you know, we can put in something else from earlier on, but we've sort of talked about it, so it's a matter of just remembering enough things at the time. Right, so we've done. Oh yeah, so you've got the same kind of thing, really, Sharon. So it's just as well that you don't have to say very much.
I'm really sad, Jacqueline, because I so enjoyed that part. It was lovely, but I've learned a lot from reading about it. And yes, you're right. I don't think I can add anything except I did find a really nice little bit here about when the bees are collecting their nectar. And yeah, there's a couple of things I might be able to add to it. Oh, where is this? It's brilliant. I wrote it all down here.
I mean, this is 16 points.
I know.
Yes.
Which, of course, you have covered lots of them. What can I
I mean,
add?
also this one is specifically how they convert nectar into honey and store it in the hive. So so actually in this one, we don't need to know anything about them going out to the plants. So it literally
you could go into more detail about the chemistry, though.
Yes.
Probably.
Well, no, the chemistry is not my scene at all. I've got lovely little bits here, like the receiving bees that are taken from the foraging bees. I read this thing. It said the receiving bee retires to a quiet section of comb and so it can continue with its mandibles with droplets of nectar in her mouth parts. I thought that was rather lovely. I don't know if I get it.
You mean she sloped off to have a quick slurp herself? That's what I'm saying.
So,
it's mine.
So anyway, she's regurgitating a small amount from honey, from her honey stomach or crop, and she's flexing her tongue, then swallows the liquid back to regurgitate it some more. I thought that was rather lovely. And this process, this exposes nectar to the air. So it's drying it by evaporation until approximately 60% of the water content is reduced to 20, ideally 18%. Anyway, elsewhere in the hive, other bees continually fan the combs with their wings, creating a through draft, which helps obviously the temperature control, but also wafts drying air. So I thought this was part of the process. At the same time, enzymes in the honey stomach are changing the chemical composition, which we've gone through, the sugary mixture. So So it's changing sucrose from fructose and glucose. And that's really been covered, I think. And so the solubility of these two, the fructose and the glucose, is much greater than the sucrose, further allowing the bees to make the highly concentrated sugar mix, 80%, that is honey. Anyway, after 20 minutes, bee drying and enzyme manipulation, the bee deposits honey into the storage cell. I hope this isn't too basic for you, Jacqueline. So anyway, and then of course, it's in storage cells. So then you have to have wax production, which I presume is coming on later. It's obviously, do you want me to go into wax production?
No, wax comes later, yeah.
Okay, we know all about that. So bees are scraping off the wax scales. I know you know all about wax production. Okay, there's a nice little thing here when you're sealing it, saying that wax can support 40 times its weight in honey. So that's why they're using it to store it. And the only thing I can add, which is probably not going to get me a point at all, but I like this as well. So, and this is quite good, I suppose, for us beekeepers who want to stop swarming and everything. It says here, if there's not enough suitable cells to store the honey, bees will digest the honey instead, which fuels wax production to expand the nest. That's irrelevant, I suppose, but I quite like that bit. So I don't know.
No, that's relevant elsewhere or in other modules. But yeah. No,
would you get an extra point, because it does say store it in the hive, how they do it? Would you get an extra point if you said which is normally above the brood nest or to the side of the brood nest?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, probably. Yes.
Because it specifically asks about storing in the hive. So
storing in the hive.
Yeah. I must have to say something in that respect, Mel, because it says that.
Wouldn't do any harm, would it?
No. I think
and also the fact that you need a lot of space for nectar, but not nearly as much for honey.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yes.
You put all these supers on, hoping it'll, and it's not all. Put 3 supers on, you end up got 1 sealed super.
Well, that's because she's gone off for 20 minutes and having a quick slurp by herself.
Yeah.
In terms of sort of exam technique, where would you start in the process? Considering this says detailed account of how honeybees convert nectar into honey, where would you start it? So if you're saying you wouldn't include, sucking it up through a proboscis and plant, and where would you start?
Well, I mean, in
what she does in her mouth.
You could say, I mean, I'll do a little précis for afterwards that went for what I send out to you. There's a chapter which I've just got to, or just turned the pages in Celia Davis, which is nectar to honey, a physical change. And so that just goes through. So probably if you were to précis that paragraph, you would probably get, I don't know, the 10 points or whatever it was that was in Pauline's. And then, you could add in just points like that you need more space for nectar than honey, and it's stored above the brood nest. So stuff like that would just take it up to the 16 points. But so, I mean, and her chapter starts with, it does start saying nectar is a solution of sugars in water with a few other things. The foraging worker bee collects nectar and carries it back to the hive in the honey stomach. So you could put that there as a starting point, because sometimes, it's good. Sometimes it's useful to say where you're starting from, or what the situation is, because then it just shows where you're going from there. And some of the model answers that you can see on some of the, there's a couple of exam papers on the BBKA website. They will sometimes put something like that, just saying, giving a starting position, really. Right, as we've just got 10 minutes left and we're going to try to be prompt, then we'll go on to Mel and Sarah. Now, the 7 plants doesn't really fall into this bit, but I'd sent it out before I really twigged that factor. So if you want to just give me 7 major sources of nectar, and then the months that they flower, we can leave that till another point, till another time, and then we'll go on to the factors influencing nectar secretion.
Only 7?
Yeah. Okay, go, Mel.
my garden, my area, I'm looking January, February, hellebores, dandelions, March, April, May, raspberries, brambles from June, July, August, bell heather from July, Himalayan balsam, September, October, rose bay willow herb from August, September, October, ivy, of course, September, October, November. How many more have I got?
I've got lost after dandelions.
Yeah.
I'm leaving out.
I had a bit of a problem trying to decide what they considered to be major sources.
Well, you want the ones which have got the highest sucrose content, the way I would
there's
read
things
that.
like lavender and stuff, but
they aren't that high in the ratings for sugar content in them. They're not the highest deliverers.
I don't even think it's the sugar content. I would say it's the most profuse nectar sources.
Right.
So, like, you know, some of the big trees, oilseed rape. Even if you haven't got oilseed rape, it's a major source. And
willow, of course, massive source.
Lime trees is another one, isn't it?
Yeah, we got lime, didn't we?
Clover, I don't know. I lost the plot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, one more.
You said brambles, didn't you, Mel?
I said who? Bramble, definitely.
Oh yeah, brambles.
What about the apple and cherry trees, the cherry blossom and things?
Yeah,
I don't know whether that's a major source though.
Himalayan balsam is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fruit trees.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got loads more, but that's more than enough.
So it's not necessarily the things that are in your area. Also heather, you know, so things like those nationwide, some of those, you know, like people might not have so much Himalayan balsam around, but most of those other things, then they're probably very common sources for everybody. So maybe actually not hellebores, although, you know, they're a useful source in the early months. But
you could say the same about oilseed rape. There's lots of areas that don't have it, and certainly every like third year it's not planted. So,
yeah,
but it is a major crop. I bet there's a lot more plants of OSR than there are hellebores. Hellebores are a garden plant, aren't they? You don't get fields of hellebores.
Yeah, I would think of big sources, so like big fields of field beans, you know, big fields of things, and big trees. Okay. And then those will be the major, because it says throughout the UK. So also, yeah, including heather's probably quite important. Okay, so factors influencing nectar secretion.
Temperature.
Yes, I've got the list here.
Sorry, just a quick question.
Temperature.
Can I just ask a quick question? Sorry about that. Because we're now saying that they'll go up to 5 miles. Do they really go 5 miles away?
I would generally say 3. Yeah, I would generally say 3. Yeah, I just put down 5 just because Andy said it, and
did I say? Sorry, I made a mistake. Then 5 kilometres or 3 miles.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Thank
But
you.
in extreme circumstances, you know, like if there wasn't really much else around and there was a field of oilseed rape 5 miles away, they probably would go to it.
Wow.
They probably eat it all themselves.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of the-
yeah. They'd be starved by the time they got back home and have to go back again. Okay, temperature, yes.
Yes, the time of day.
Yeah.
I think it said wind and humidity. Soil moisture content. Nature of the soil and subsoil. The age and vigor of the plant. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The topography.
Yeah.
And shading.
Okay. Anybody got any others?
Position
Rain.
of the flower on the plant.
Yeah.
Rainfall.
But that
Kinda
will go
different
in
from-
with
Different from
humidity, wind
isn't
and
it?
humidity.
It's different from humidity, isn't it?
Well, you've got soil moisture content there as well, haven't you?
But also, if it's raining, the plant could still be secreting nectar, but it's just being washed away. So it's not
Okay,
the rain's not directly affecting the secretion.
right.
Sex of the plant.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Female flowers produce more nectar than males on some.
I mean, those are the main ones. So actually, and that, I think that's quite a nice question. I think I had that one in my exam as well. And so yeah, if you can just think of, you know, just picture some plants growing out in a tree or with some hills around, or you know, different types of soil and things like that, then it's I think it's quite a good one, easy to think of 8 things. So I think it is anyway.
No, I agree. Yeah.
What I found was quite interesting on that is that certain plants need heat to produce the nectar and others don't seem to. So it seems that they're all very individual, and what you would expect doesn't always happen if you haven't got the right conditions to grow it in.
Yes, because what was it? There was
Sorry. What plants don't need heat to produce it? I always thought they had to be a certain temperature.
No, some like it low, don't they?
Yeah.
I think there are some plants that apparently produce a huge amount of nectar, but then when you look at it, if you grow it in England, they won't produce any because they like it. They only produce it in hot. So unless you're in Central Europe, you're not going to get much nectar from them. Whereas others, I think, a bit more forgiving.
Yeah,
I think
blackberry.
willows will produce it at quite low temperatures.
Yeah, they produce it. They will only produce at cooler temperatures, above, 12 to 14. But not many can produce below 8 to 10, which I thought, well, that's quite handy to remember because, of course, your bees don't normally forage below that. So that would be good. But they reckon the Tillias, the limes, they need warm days and warm nights. But white clovers and willows prefer cooler temperatures. I thought that was really interesting.
And I think oilseed rape needs it above 16.
16, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So some of the early oilseed rape probably isn't much use, but the later ones, then it's better for the bees. And there was what was it? Something else. Hawthorn needs it to be quite warm. I can't remember now.
It's quite fussy, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, and then there were things that here we are. Oh my God. No, apples usually worked for nectar later in the day. Doesn't put much here about temperature. There was something else quite common, and it said it's usually collected in the morning.
Collected in the morning, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the apple in the afternoon. I can't remember what the morning was like.
No.
I've got it here.
It was more productive at cooler temperatures. Yeah. So
Yes, it depends if you've got it in your area. So
yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like those questions where they're about the plants and then
yes.
the production stuff. So, as it's 2 minutes to 9, then we're quite timely actually. I feel like we've rushed through it a little bit, but it seems like you've all done a reasonable amount of reading about something. So the next sections, I'll send this out. So I think I may have changed the order from what I sent out before. So I decided we would do uncapping combs, types of honey extractor. So I haven't put the actual section. I'll put the actual section. I think I've just put some questions in here. Oh no, types of honey extractor, and then straining and settling of honey after extraction. So that's where we're going to go up to next time. So it's sort of literally about processing honey, really. But I'll send this out. And then we'll see. And yeah, and also as we go through, you'll see which kind of questions that they tend to have asked quite a lot. So obviously, like the honeydew's been quite popular because they've had about 3 questions on that one, and processing of honey by the bees, that's fairly popular. So yeah, these tend to be the sort of things they use for the longer questions. So, any other questions? Anybody? I'll stop sharing this now.
Are you going to allocate some questions again for next time, Jacqueline?
Yes, although I don't think there were very many questions on there, but so we might double up on things. But yeah, I will might as well allocate them, and then it just makes sure everybody hasn't read the first topic and thought, oh, I'll look at that.
Well, I think it worked better this time than when we did the honeybee health module 3. Because I think a lot of us came to the meeting without having read anything, but we were able to muddle through because we'd done the honeybee health.
Yeah.
So we had some knowledge, so we muddled through, but actually doing it this way means people makes them read a topic.
Jacqueline, I don't think I'm going to be able to continue with this because of my broadband. I almost can't hear anything now. Pauline, I've just on my mobile phone done an internet speed test, and it says that my download is 3.48, but my upload, which presumably is this, is only 0.49. It's unsustainable, isn't it?
It doesn't sound very big to me.
No.
You haven't got super fast broadband.
No.
It's dreadful.
It's appalling. So I don't know what I'm going to do. What I'll do, Jacqueline, I'll try and sort out my broadband. Well, there is nothing I can do. I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. We've got no fast speed, anything. All my neighbours have got satellite and God knows what. I'm still on BT. So I'll try and sort it out. But if it continues like this, I may just have to try and listen into your recordings because I don't understand it. Because when we did the bee health, I didn't have a problem.
No, maybe it's. I mean, I know
I've had problems today, so I don't know what it is.
Some people sometimes, when you go to these meetings, they say, "Oh, if other people turn off their videos, then it helps with the speeds and things." So maybe I don't know if we didn't.
If
all
you
have
turn off your own
on.
if you turn off your own video recording, it's much better for you.
Yes.
So if we didn't see it,
what about doing it on your phone?
Yeah, I might try that. That's what you've just done, isn't it?
That's what I'm doing, yeah. Just today, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll try that next time.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for your
Thank you,
input.
everyone.
It was really good.
Thank you.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
Brilliant.